this week for Hump Day Happiness. And I am so excited that this is also going to be my podcast for the week. We are doing a 2-in-1 because I've had so many people, I don't know about you guys, they've said, I want to see you ladies on a podcast. I want you to entertain that idea. And that makes my heart sing because I love the work that we do together. So our purpose for Hump Day Happiness and my podcast is to give you actionable items, things to process, things to think about of how you're either going to turn it all around if the week is going crappy. It's your awareness to change it all around and do something different, have a better outcome. Or if you're like high vibing and riding the goodness, we take it up a notch and make it even better, that we can share and hold space for those who aren't in this high vibing, amazing place this week. So I came up with the idea of breath work and breath, a free tool, something that whether you're personally wanting to achieve something, in business wanting to achieve something, or maybe it's not even about achievement. It's just getting yourself to that place that you feel good. And the first thing that came to my mind, a tool, is breath. Now, Susan, you had like a mic drop before we got on. What did you say about, go ahead, just tell them what you said.
Okay. First line. Yeah. This was something that actually came to me over vacation through some things that experienced. And I realized you can either have connection or you can have control. But you can't have both at the same time.
I gotta write that down if you all see me grabbing this. You can have connection or control, but you can't have both. And then Shalini, what did you say?
And for me, the way you breathe, that you're either going to be in opposition with yourself within your body, or you're going to experience harmony and inflow.
Right? And connection and harmony is beautiful. I don't think there's anyone on this planet that doesn't want to connect and doesn't want to be in harmony. But the control and the opposition is what gets in the way. And I don't even think we're aware sometimes of the stress that we hold, that we're not breathing. I don't even think we're aware of how shallow we breathe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And breath is something, I know, Shalini, you talk a lot about this. Breath is something we're born taking big, deep, diaphragmatic belly breaths. When you look at a baby sleeping, right, their physiology is beautiful. It's the way that it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Susan, what causes us to go from that beautiful baby, deep belly, harmonized breath to this shallow, short control kind of breathing?
One word: contraction. Yeah. So we're pulling our energy in and holding. We're not allowing that breath to go deep into our belly. Oftentimes, because when we do, we feel. And I think in general, as a society, we are very adverse to feeling, especially difficult things. But the problem is when you try to control it so that you don't feel the bad things, you also aren't going to feel the good things. So it's no wonder that there is an epidemic of depression. That's just depressing your feelings down, pushing your feelings down so that you don't have to feel them.
I think there's such a judgment and a stigma that comes with certain feelings. We're not allowed to, men aren't allowed to cry, women aren't allowed to get angry. There's so much societal stuff about how we're supposed to be. I don't know if either of you have ever been in a scenario where you've been told how you're supposed to be, but I have many times in my life. Yeah, we're all nodding our head. Yes, I know you listening. You're probably like, whether it was as early as school, whether it was, I mean, I even think about my little guy in school, and I get what they have a curriculum and they have to move along, but he's such a creative brain. And anytime he wants to embellish or, add his little spin, it's like, oh, no, 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 that's not the way we do the homework. And I'm like, says who? Says,
Yeah.
that's like my guiding question. When someone says, oh, no, 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 I go, says who? But you have to have parents, mentors, peers, friends, I think sometimes to help you realize, no, you don't have to play by those rules, right?
Yeah, and I also probably the importance of breath, right? I think we take breath for granted. We take waking up each morning for granted. That's how we know we're breathing, because we wake up each morning. So I feel like even just the importance of the gift that we were given when we came into this world, is not tapped into.
Mm-hmm. When are some of the key times that people can do breath work if they're feeling stressed or anxious? I always think about transition times. I work from home now, which is awesome. But I think when I was a nurse educator and I was like driving all around from home to home and then back to my home, literally when I put the car in park, I would stop and take a breath because I wanted to check my energy. I didn't want to carry into a new space whatever happened in the space before. And I definitely didn't want to carry into my home a lot of the stresses and things from the workday. But it wasn't always that way. I would come home from being an ICU nurse and I was so because I was so run off my feet, right? You want to talk about self-care, like none. And I was so grouchy. I was like, nobody talked to me. Nobody touched me. Like, I need to take a shower. I need to eat something. I need to go take a nap. Like, holy, did I bring that stress and that pressure, from work into my home. And I never realized it until like literally Eric was like, what is the matter with you? And I was like, what do you mean? What's the matter with me? Right? Like, it's like other people call you on it and you're like, I'm not the problem. You're the problem. Right. And then I was like, no, like I need to do something to shift this energy. And I found taking a few deep breaths and literally letting the breath cleanse me, I could change my whole energy by the time I put the car in park, took some breaths, got out, and went inside my home. Are there any times that jump out for you that you find you've had to take deep breaths to shift the energy or anything there?
All day long.
I was just going to say the same thing, all day long.
All day long. I think, I was a breath holder. Like I never even realized I was holding my breath until all of a sudden I was like gasping because I had held it for so long and didn't even realize it. And what I've noticed, what I've found is people who are always trying to hold it together. Because as within, so without, right? People who are trying to hold it together all the time will hold their breath.
Mm-hmm. That was me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, show of hands, how many of us have tried to hold and felt like we had to always keep it together and hold it together?
Yeah.
That's such a good phrase, Susan, because even if we're not outwardly saying that, I think we think that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good. Because why? Why do we got to hold it together?
Because we have obligations and got to get responsibilities, got to get this to this to this to this and hold it all together so I can get through the day, and then I can collapse, right? That's when I can have my glass of wine. That's where I can, relax a little bit. But then you start having this cycle of, really going out there and doing it and then collapsing and out there and then collapsing. And that's exhausting.
Or I found when I would grab that glass of wine, it wasn't that I wanted the wine. I wanted like nurturing or nourishment. I needed something for me. And I was tricking myself thinking that the wine makes me zen. And so a lot of times I was like, Lisa, you don't need a glass of wine. You need to go to bed. You need to get sleep. You need to rest. You need to recover. And that was, I love that you bring that up. I know that was a huge awareness for me. Yeah, that's, you know, I can't, it's like I can't fall apart either, or I can't let the ego, I can't let people see me as not the strong mom and wife and businesswoman. And again, we feel like we always have to be on 10, or we always have to be perfect. There's no room for humanity.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, vulnerability.
Yeah.
But we all feel a range of emotions. We all have hard things that knock us on our butt.
Yeah, and for me, it really screams out when like there's actually like I feel like tightness in my chest area, you know, and it's actually like pressure, you know, and it feels like it hurts, you know, the body just hurts right there, and you know, and then you have to think about like, okay, you know, what is actually happening there? How much am I holding on, and what am I holding on to, you know, and so sometimes even with breathing, you have to go deeper because there's just this tightness and this restriction and constriction, all the things we're talking about. Like for me, I have to think, what situation in my life am I controlling or trying to control, or something I don't want to feel, you know, just because I'm exhausted, you know, it just becomes like this spiral, you know, but the body also, you know, tells you.
Oh my God, the body. I never put two and two together until I started working with Susan. I don't get headaches often, but on the days when I have this pounding headache, like right in the middle of my eyes, it's those days where I'm having that battle between other people telling me who I have to be, what I have to think, what I have to do, what's good, what's right, what's wrong, and my intuition and my gut going, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. And it's like this constant battle, or something that I thought I knew and I had figured out. And then something else comes and I'm like, wait a second. I get this pain right here. And even if I'm breathing and I breathe into it, like I find I have to stop and process and talk it out and work my way through it. But the first sign for me is always a headache, like right here. I know when I'm having one of those days. So I love it where you're saying the body will tell you. Do you have anything, Susan, that you feel, or just the tightness as well from holding your breath?
I get a lot of tightness up in my back area. And so when I start feeling that tightness like that, I'm like, ooh, that's my sign I'm holding it together. So that's when I start checking. Okay, yeah, I'm holding it together. So I'm probably not breathing. Let me take a look. Am I breathing? Yeah, no, you're really not breathing. Let me take a few deep breaths. Yeah. And we're taught to hold our breath. Right? We're taught to contract our stomach muscles, to suck it in, to create this very strong core. But when we do that, we're also not breathing. It's a very, very controlled. And Shalini, you brought up something about, you know, controlling yourself, right? Controlling your emotions, or controlling what's going on, trying to control yourself. And that's the other thing. So we started out by saying you can have control, or you can have connection. So if you're controlling yourself, you've actually lost connection with yourself as well. It's not just with other people. That happens with yourself too.
Yes, absolutely. It's actually an indicator for me that I'm giving more than I'm receiving. You know, and that's when I need to, you know, really look at, you know, doing something for myself so I feel taken care of.
What comes up for me is when I'm speaking and I'm about to go on a stage, or I'm speaking at a conference, or even virtually, And if I'm so worried about how I look and how I'm presenting and what people are thinking about me, and if I rehearsed enough and if I'm going to say the right thing or if I'm going to do a good job, I've completely lost the connection with the audience. I've completely lost the connection with the person that needs my message the most. And it's because I'm trying to control myself to be perfect. Oh, I know that hits. And then what I do is I take deep breaths before I get on something like this or a stage. That's when I really use breath, when I feel those butterflies in my stomach and the nervousness comes up.
Yeah, but when you actually fully breathe, you can tap into that creativity. You can tap into that wisdom, that actually fuels the connection, that we're all seeking and we all want to share. So there's the importance of breath is not talked about enough.
No. Yeah, and I think people, or we don't realize, people say, I don't have time to do that. It feels like breath work is this lengthy endeavor that we have to get into. And that's not true, right? It can be as simple as 3 deep breaths. Or what do you recommend for those people that say, really? I don't have time to fit breath work into my life, or it's another to do, or you don't understand, I have to run from call to call to call, or meeting to meeting to meeting, or kids hockey practice to getting dinner on the table. What do we say to those people? Or we've been there. What do we say to ourselves, and what do we say to people who say that?
Do you have time to pee?
Right?
You can do it sitting on the toilet.
If you have time for social media, we have so much time for things that don't feed our soul, and for me, just, now there is no excuse. You take your breath wherever you go. So you can find 30 seconds, a minute, wherever you are. It doesn't matter where you are, so yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tie it to just something that you do all the time anyhow. I know, just saying, oh, do you pee? But seriously, we all do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if every time you went into the bathroom, you were like, okay, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths while I'm sitting here. That would be, how many times a day are you doing that? How much better would you feel on a daily basis if just during that time you tie it to something that you already do?
Mm-hmm. And the awareness for me is that breath is always available.
Yeah.
As part of a mastermind group that I'm in, one of our daily activities that we do is, a lot of people know Wim Hof, the Iceman, and he's got all these breathing exercises, and he can hold his breath for I don't even know how long, and in the most extreme temperatures, and holds the world records for breath holding. And we do all these deep cleansing breath things, but then part of it is to hold your breath for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds. And when I was first getting into it, I would only hold my breath 10, 15 seconds. As soon as I felt that urge to breathe, I was like, right? And then now I'm like, okay, breath, air and breath is always available to me. And it's such a head game to learn to calm down and tap into my body and slow my heart rate and, override all those fear things that come up. Breath is always there.
I was just going to say, it really becomes a mindset, right? Thing. We've overcomplicated everything.
Yeah.
We don't even know what to do with something that's so simple, because it has to be complicated. We have to make it hard,
Yeah. Is there a right? It's is there a right? People talk about the box breathing and is there a right and wrong way to breathe, or do we just take deep breaths and breathe? We just take deep breaths and breathe, right?
Yeah, all these other, all these other breathing techniques are just something that can help everyone, connect to something. And then so they have guidance, till it becomes, again, a habit or a way of life, right? So there's just so many different ways something's going to call to you. You don't need to have it guided, or you can, because that's just going to, keep it maybe sustainable, maybe keeps, accountability there, you can just get onto, because, I have box breathing with the gong on my YouTube channel. It's just 8 minutes. So there's like, everyone has 8 minutes, and you just follow, the breathing if you need assistance. So having support is fine. Just, bring it into your life somehow, into some sort of routine. It will change your life.
Yeah, that's where I was going to ask you next. What if we were to incorporate a breath practice every day in our life? 8 minutes, like you said, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you have. What would you expect to see in your life when you start regularly focusing on your breath and breath work?
Less stress, lower blood pressure.
It helps you regulate your emotions.
Yes.
The big, regulator. More in flow, more awareness of your environment, and what's triggering you. Like there's just, it opens up a whole other frequency.
I love that you said, I just want to stop for a second to reiterate that back. Breath is a regulator. My nurse brain just went crazy, because I think, how many pills do people take to regulate their mood, to regulate their blood pressure, to regulate their sleep cycle, all these things we medicate for. And I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place and space for medication.
Yes, of course.
But that was whoa, less stress, regulating your emotions, lowering your heart rate. Breath is a regulator. Oh, that's deep. That's huge. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I'm just sitting with that for a second.
It's why I say your breath is your superpower.
Yeah, Shalini, you have a course coming out all about restoring your breath. Susan, I know, Susan, when I do work with you and things get big, you're like, okay, take a deep breath. That's the go-to.
Yeah.
Because breath.
Well, when we start feeling, we want to hold our breath so we don't feel it. And some of it too is, especially, I do this work over Zoom with you. Sometimes it's in person. People have been taught that it's not polite to show their emotions. And so as soon as emotions start coming up, we tend to want to stop them. I get a lot of apologies, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. I can't believe I cried like that with you on the phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, it needs to flow. And sometimes emotions are the thought of emotions are more overwhelming than the emotions themselves.
Yes.
Right? So would you just allow, that sadness to run through your body, or that anger? Could you just allow the rage to run through your body? Not that you have to do anything with it, not that you have to lash out at anyone, but could you just allow your body to completely feel that? It's a rush. When you can do that and just let it, you can imagine it's going up to your head, it's going down to your feet and back up, and just let it keep flowing until it dissipates on its own. You realize you don't have to control your emotions. The reason you control them is because you think they're going to control you.
Right, or the fear that you're not going to know how to come out of it. When you actually experience. So I feel a lot of people, they're just afraid if they go there, are they going to be able to actually come out of it? And that's just scary. So they don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I think people are a lot afraid to vocalize too. I even remember the very simplest form of being in a group yoga class and the instructor saying, you know, take a deep breath and then just, and I'm like, I'm not going to make a noise, right? You know, or even like the deep chanting and things that sometimes are brought in with Shalini, you know, into yoga classes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are they like, what do they say to do with your lips? Or they're like when you bend over, it's like, let your lips go. I'm like, I am not doing that in public, right? Now I'm like, I'm going to get what I came for and I'm going to moan. I'm going to vocalize, like whatever comes out, and I don't care, right? And I think it's getting over that, doing what you need to do, like exactly it. You need to cry, you need to yell, you need to exhale loud and sigh and release. Like you said, when you bottle it up and you keep it in, you try to control. It's got to go somewhere, right? That energy and that emotion has to go somewhere eventually.
And if it just stays in your body, it's going to bring disease.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's like
emotions.
I know it's just it's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny, Lisa. You were talking about the whole breathing and like letting it out of the mouth, because I can like picture, like I have, like when I do that with my students and especially with my seniors, you know, and I would tell them to do it, they look at me like I have 10 heads.
right, because if you grew up in the like, you don't
like, I know it's gonna be awkward, it's gonna feel very uncomfortable, but it's so good for you, and you're in the same space, and just do it. And it takes them a while, but when they do it, they're like, oh my god, that was like so freeing. But I know what you're saying. I can only, you know, I just miss them because we haven't had in-person teachings. I keep thinking about them, but like that's what I keep thinking about. They just look at me like, I can't believe you're having me do this.
Yeah, I got to the point where I was just like, well, first of all, everybody around me was doing it. So I was like, okay, if everybody else is doing it, then clearly I can do it. But I just didn't care. You get to a point where you just don't care, because it's not about pleasing someone else. It's not about not making someone else feel uncomfortable. It's about releasing and letting go and getting what you need. And that trumps all the worries and fears and all of that, right?
And self-consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we didn't, I feel like this is complete. Is there anything else we're missing? Is there anything else we didn't hit them with? I don't think so. Can you think of anything?
Actually, yeah, you know, Shalini said something about, you know, people are afraid that their emotions are going to overwhelm them, and that's why they don't feel. And I have come across this a lot with my clients, and the thing that I've come up with that is schedule your emotions. If thinking about feeling your emotions is overwhelming, if you're afraid you're going to fall apart and not be able to put yourself back together again, schedule your emotions. Say, my example is always Monday and Friday, 5 o'clock, 5 to 5:30. Pick a time. It doesn't matter what time it is, but pick a time, and you know, you're letting yourself, your body know that, okay, maybe I can't feel my feelings right now, but at 5 o'clock on those 2 days, I'm just going to feel everything that I'm feeling. Set a timer, and when the timer goes off, I say zip it back up again. So just like you're done, make sure that you follow that boundary that you've given yourself of a half hour. Don't be like, oh, I'm feeling and it's feeling good, I'm just gonna keep going. No, you have to have accountability, and your body has to know that when that timer goes off, you're done.
I like that. That's such a good resource for people who are like, yeah, I want to scream at the top of my lungs, but I'm in the middle of a board meeting with, you know, X, Y, and Z, or, you know, I'm at that family dinner and I want to go tell someone something, but I can't do that. That's not, you know, I literally can't do that. It's like, right, schedule your emotions, and then you might not be able to release it at that moment, but you're still not storing it. You're releasing it.
Yes.
When you can.
You're letting your body know, hey, I'm not pushing this down forever. I'm not just adding this to the top of the pile. You know, I'm going to feel this. This is not a convenient time right now. And then the more you do that, the more you won't even have to do that. Because then you build up confidence that you're going to be able to get out of it.
I love that so much. Mm-hmm. 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 All right, ladies. Well, I think that was an amazing thing to share. I hope that the listeners are taking that in. Breath is always available to you. You can either have connection or control, opposition or harmony. We don't have to hold it all together. Breath is a regulator. Oh, if you have time to pee, you have time to breathe. And if you're lying to yourself by saying, I can't ever release this, then you got to schedule in those times for those big emotions or any emotions that you don't want to store it in your body, because that leads to disease. And I don't think any of us want that in our life.
Yeah.
And something as simple and easy and free. Don't overcomplicate it. Like Shalini said, take some deep breaths. No more overthinking. That's it. That's it. So thank you for tuning in to Hump Day Happiness and the Lisa Pezik Show podcast. Make sure that you are try it out this week. Play with scheduling in some time or using your breath when you notice big feelings or emotions or pains or something coming up. Play with that this week and see what happens. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. And let us know in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What really hit for you today? Try this out. Let us know how it works for you. We want to be more interactive and hear what's going on with you and what's really helping you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.